All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. This is Danielle. She's had hybrid weft extensions in her hair for over a year, and we love all her growth. We are really, really happy with how her hair looks and feels, but we are missing that pop. So we're going to be using Keralink extensions. These are Donna Bella Keralinks in color 610. They are 22 inches, and we are going to be using the Camera Professional Natural Ultra Lift to add a pop of color to her natural hair before we add these. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is to make sure that it will blend and to also just add a little bit of depth to her natural hair. But we're using the Ultra Lift because we don't like to use lightener on her hair. We don't want to damage it any more than it already is. And that's the whole reason why she had hybrid weft extensions in her hair to begin with, is to heal all that damage. So I'm gonna take just a section from ear to ear and take a fat weave and tease it. Now I'm doing this because I want to create more of a subtle, natural placement of the pop of highlight. And I'm just using my Fermar Big Daddy brush and I'm painting that on. Now the reason why I'm teasing, it's going to ensure proper blending. And I'm using the Big Daddy brush because it has a lot more control than the painter brush. And I'm doing some random placements here because like I said, I want it to look as natural as possible. Painting it through, and then I'm gonna be taking my big pop-up brushes and just slapping on that color. Now I'm using the Natural Ultra Lift with 20 volume mixed at a 1:2 ratio, and we're gonna process this for 45 minutes. I'm only going to be doing one foil at this area of her head, and that's just because, again, I don't want a whole lot of lightness. I just want to break up how dark it is underneath. Now I'm going to take that top section and I'm just going to split it directly in half. I'm being mindful of the split that she has in the back of her head. I'm using that actually as my guideline to figure out where I want to put my sections. But again, I'm taking a thicker weave and I'm teasing. I'm doing this at a diagonal back. The diagonal backs are going to give you more of a natural placement. And I'm just saturating like I did with the section underneath. Now you'll see here, the reason why we're doing Keralinks is to fill in some of the holes that she has. You can see right where I placed the foil. I don't want to go any higher because I don't want to draw any attention to the gaps she has in the back of her head. This is basically where the crown is, and that's where some of her breakage was to begin with when we did the hybrid wefts. Now we're going to move to the face frame. I'm going to take an inch section from in front of the ear to the top of the head, and I'm going to do some baby light fine highlights. And I'm going to be putting this first foil right against her scalp. I'm going to take a tiny subsection. It's about, I don't even know, half a centimeter deep or half a centimeter wide. And I'm going to do an on base baby light. So I'm going to put my comb as close as I can to her scalp and then bounce my comb in between. It almost creates more of like a Velcro effect, and it'll give almost the appearance of a slice. I'm going to over direct my foil, get some tension in there, and apply my Natural Ultra Lift mixed with 20 volume right onto that. Now I'm always making sure to feather my product into the root area. The reason why I'm doing this is going to ensure a nice proper blend. I don't mind the product that's on my hand, but I'm going to do 3 back-to-back foils right around her hairline. Again, doing that nice tight weave, over directing, and then applying my product. Here you can see that I'm cleaning up my section with my rat tail comb, making sure that I get all the hair in this foil. And again, I'm just going to push that product into the root and make sure that it is properly blended. Now for the last foil, I'm going to take a thicker weave and then actually tease that up a little bit. I'm not going to make the blend as high, so I'm not going to put the product as high as I did with the 2 other baby lights that I just did. This is going to help diffuse the color into the back of the head and make sure that it doesn't look like a blunt, chunky face frame. Here we are pulling out the foils. This was a Natural Ultra Lift processed at 45 minutes. It was perfect. I didn't want a super bright blonde. I was looking for more of a level 7, maybe even level 6. The reason being is we're going to be doing a darker copper over top of all this anyway. Her overall glaze was 1 part 8 GK, half parts 6 GK, and then 1 part 7K. I wanted to do a darker auburn copper melt. And this was our first time playing around with our oligo with this particular client, and we were in love. We loved it. It was the perfect amount of copper and gold for this particular application. You can see the underneath highlights. We were really, really pumped about those. Again, I just want to create a natural placement. I'm not looking for anything super crazy and poppy. But let's get into it. So I take the Keralink and I like to cut it in half. So Donna Bella says DB. I like to cut right where the DB is. That will create a standard Keralink, and then you can make it a micro Keralink by cutting that half in half. can actually make it even smaller, but we'll go into that later. So yes, for this, I'm going to cut that Keralink right in half, and I'm going to be using this as my Keralink. I'm going to take a section roughly the width of my Keralink. Then I'm going to use a Donna Bella Keralinks discs with a clip and clip that right to the head. What this does is secures the section, keeps it nice and clean. So I'm going to take my Keralink, set it right on top, also with the Donna Bella tinsel. Now when I'm doing the placement, I'm doing about a 1/2 inch away from the scalp. That way it can move at a 360 view. Then I'm going to use my melting connector, tap it, and then roll it. The tapping motion essentially just pushes the keratin down so it doesn't stick and go all over the place. And then you roll it to roll the keratin together. And then you get these beautiful little triangles of where your Keralinks are. So I know some people do it a little bit differently than I do. I like to do them longer, so width-wise versus length-wise, only because I feel like it gives that more 360 view versus doing a rectangular section. And I can talk about that and show you guys what I'm talking about in a different video. But nonetheless, we just went around the head and I did some strategic placement of where I put these. And the strategy was basically the most random, so the most natural looking placement possible. So now we're going to do the micro Keralinks. I'm going to take a section from the top of the ear, about 1 inch away from that, to the temple. I'm going to go to a diagonal back, and I'm going to take my micro Keralink, that Keralink that I cut right in half, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to do a section that is about the width of the Keralink. We're going to melt it, tap it, and roll it. Now, it's really important when you're doing the micro Keralinks to put your comb at the hairline to double check and make sure that you can't see the Keralink through the hair. I unfortunately do not have an example of this, which is totally my fault, but you want to make sure that you cannot see the Keralink through the hairs that are around the hairline. I kind of already did this. Like, again, I don't have a video of this, which is totally my fault. I'm now realizing as I'm doing this voiceover, but nonetheless, I used that micro Keralink to fill in the holes around her face. Now we're going to do some cutting. I'm actually taking my texturizing shears and I'm sliding down on the hair. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to create the most natural looking edge, and by using my texture shears, I'm able to soften any lines that are created from the extensions. It looks like there's holes in her hair. There really isn't. The extensions are just straighter than her natural hair, and I'm just following what a natural looking haircut would look like. I'm using Hanzo shears. These particular shears are actually designed for extensions. They are meant to slide, and they are meant to slide very easily on the hair and create that natural looking edge. I finished up her haircut by doing my traditional layering and making sure that the extensions blended in with her natural hair, as well as creating some layers and some internal texture. But we finished her up with a beautiful waved style, and we were obsessed. We were so happy with the color. We were happy the way that everything ended up blending. I loved how her face frame turned out. I was a little apprehensive because I was like, crap, I think this is too bright. But nope, it ended up turning out beautifully. And look how seamless those micro Keralinks blend into her hair. And I was even happier to fill in some of those gaps that she had around her face. But guys, if you love this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what you think about this. What do you want to see?